What's going on, you guys? It's your boy Patrick, aka Addicted to Combat, back for another week of UFC action. Happy Wednesday, happy live stream day. We are that much closer to the pay-per-view in Australia, UFC 293, featuring the middleweight championship on the line, defended by the reigning champion Israel Adesanya, as he takes on a new challenge this time in Sean Strickland. So the lead up to this fight should be a lot of fun. Two guys with big personalities, kind of cringy personalities, but still fun characters in the sport nonetheless. We got 12 fights on this card. Co-main event in Sydney is Sydney's own Tuivasa as he takes on Alexander Volkov. So from a overall, pay-per-view standard here, not the best card. There's been some drop-offs even on the main card, but as we go through these fights, I think there's a lot of arguments for either side on this one, from the prelims all the way up. It should be exciting. I'm going to talk betting action on this card. I dropped my full card breakdown yesterday, so got my thoughts out there. But now I will be joined by somebody to trade opinions off of. And it's a guy I've been watching his content for a long time. He's an OG of the game. Some of you guys, if you remember a site called Odds HQ, they used to have a lot of hard hitters there. You saw MMA Prediction Guru last week or a couple weeks ago. We had Clint on the show before. And this guy, Bleed MMA, used to actually host those panels. And as far as assessing value on fighters, giving thorough, entertaining breakdowns, Bleed is one of my favorite guys to watch. So it's an honor to have him on my show and get after this pay-per-view card. What is up, Bleed? How you doing?
Doing good, man. Thank you for the proper introduction. Wow, I feel honored. Yeah, man, it's been a long time since I've done a full card breakdown. You hit me up. I said, let's do the damn thing. Here we are, Australia, UFC 293. I'm ready when you are.
Absolutely. How do you feel about this card as a whole? I mentioned it's not the most star-studded pay-per-view. A lot of local talent, CKB, City Kickboxing guys. But what do you feel about it in general?
I mean, I think it's a decent card. I think we're going to get decent action. I think there's going to be a few guys that are probably going to break out. A lot of guys making debuts. And really a lot of guys from, the Oceanic region getting in on the action. Guys that probably would have travel issues, visas, stuff like that, issues if we weren't bringing essentially the UFC to them. You got to remember, this card is prime time viewing for us here in the States. This is like a morning pay-per-view for the Australians who are showing up. This is the hardcore of the hardcore, which I got to give the Australians credit. They really are. They turn out and they show up. But I think this card's probably going to exceed expectations from an entertainment standpoint. And I think it's a pretty good card from a betting aspect as well. I have a few bets already on this card. Couple spots that I'm debating. I don't know. Maybe you can help me get there. We'll see.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you, man. And that's a recent thing in the past few years, is actually adapting to the international UFC fans' time zone. We used to just always screw the guys in Asia and Europe and just make the arena whenever. Now we're actually adapting. We got to wake up in the morning for UFC Singapore and things like that these days.
Killed me.
Yeah, absolutely. But I'll shout out the chat before we get into this. We got my guy Jesse Q in the house. What is up, homie? My guy Lou Betya from the MMA Engine as well. I know he's good content. Love Lou Betya, and yeah, he's a big Bleed fan as well. I'm sure there's a lot of people that remember the old days I was speaking of Odds HQ, and they're probably subscribers to your channel as well. But we get extra Bleed content this week for the pay-per-view. We got Mushroom MMA in the house. Everybody go check out his channel. I know he goes live 9 p.m. Central Time on Thursday nights as well. So yeah, we got a lot of really smart people in the house to help us break down these fights here. Derek Izzy in the house. Jenna Marie giving us the cheers, giving us the hearts. Hopefully you're sipping on something strong as usual on a Wednesday night. We got 12 fights to go through. I think they're all still intact, so that is good news for us. We start at the welterweight division. We have the first prelim opener of Kevin Jousset versus Kiefer Crosbie. Bleed, we have about 5 UFC debutantes on this card. These are 2 of them. And if you look at their nationalities, one guy from France, one guy from Ireland, you're wondering why this wasn't on last week's card in Paris. But Kevin Jousset is a City Kickboxing guy. So a judoka by trade, and now he's adding in the kickboxing element of his game. Looks a little awkward on the feet, but he's more of like a slow to start counter striker. But he does have the ability to get up in the clinch, hip toss people down to the mat, and employ ground and pound there as well. He takes on kind of an opposite style in Kiefer Crosbie from Ireland. This guy's kind of a brawling boxer, wants to use those short-range weapons and inflict damage early. So kind of a clash of the pacing of round 1. Uh, Me personally, I got to go with Kevin Jousset, the slight favorite here, just because I think if he can survive that onslaught in round 1, he can probably take over and have a more well-rounded game in rounds 2 and rounds 3. But the low striking output nature of Kevin Jousset's style does give me some cause for concern. Where the money line is at right now, we got Kevin Jousset minus 155 favorite, plus 135 for Kiefer Crosbie, excuse me. Where do you fall on this one, dude?
Well, first things first, we're talking about a fight that just literally had to be scheduled on that UFC France card. I don't know what happened. Something fell apart, but we're talking about an Irish guy fighting a French guy. So, yeah. Kevin Jousset, stylistically, you're right. French guy, kickboxing base, fighting out of city kickboxing. The tape I watched definitely, didn't blow me away. I do feel like he's one of these guys that could potentially come to the UFC, step up to that next level, especially a big fight like this. He's the first fight of the night. City kickboxing wants to get off to an on fire start, right? I don't know if he's that guy though. And to me, there's an element of danger here. Kiefer Crosbie. What's so strange to me about Kiefer Crosbie is this guy's last fight, not necessarily MMA. 2 weeks ago, this guy's joke boxing, London Real World cast member, Aaron Chalmers. Like, I don't know how you can be in that mindset. You know what I mean? Where you're doing joke boxing, but you're like, you know what? In a week, I'm making my UFC debut as well. So we're doing this, folks, but tune in a week. That's what's really going down. It's just strange to me. Stylistically, Kiefer Crosbie, pretty well-rounded guy, pretty good fighter. I think this fight's probably priced pretty correctly. I'm with you. I'm going to go on the Jousset side, but I smell double danger. To me, a UFC debut on both sides. We got 12 fights. I see much better action further down this card. It's an easy pass for me, but as far as making a pick, I'm going to pick Jousset to get it done and to start it off hot for city kickboxing.
You a big Devin Clark dad fan here?
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Listen, if we can get into it later if you guys want.
Absolutely, dude. We'll have a couple light heavyweights to talk about. But, yeah, I'm glad we're on the same side of that one. I'm glad I'm not crazy. Again, it's that first round that I think is going to determine how this fight goes. So it might be even a live betting spot if you're into that on not Kiefer Crosbie, but if he doesn't get the job done in round 1, he can gas himself out going into that round 2, and then it could be Kevin Jousset all day by live bet if you get a better line on that one, maybe some plus money. So we're on the same side of that one. No betting action pre-flop for me, but as far as like this fight going to the scorecards, do you have an opinion on that?
Not really. I mean, I would have to dig in further, into the finish rates on both guys, but I think both guys have been to a decision plenty of times, and I don't think either guy I've seen have a durability issue. That being said, I guess I would probably lean to the over, but again, man, I feel like either one of these guys could have like one of those spectacular breakthrough performances. I don't know which guy it's going to be. I like your angle. Give me a live bet opportunity. Let me get a read on round 1 and try to figure out who's going to run away with this fight.
Yeah, I guess they got it split up on Bet Online, even as the over under set at 1.5 rounds. The over 1.5 kind of juiced to minus 200 or more. So I think the under does correlate towards a Kiefer Crosbie success more likely than not, but I'm not too interested in playing that one. So we can move right along. We got our guys, another city kickboxing guy in Shane Jung, a guy that they probably try to forget as part of the team these days, but he's taking on Gabriel Miranda, a Brazilian grappler, featherweight bout here. Shane Jung is on a 3-fight losing streak, and you can kind of forgive a couple of them, right? Like when he got knocked out by a head kick by Ludovic Klein. You kind of forgive that a little bit. Pretty technical striker there, and it happens about a minute into the fight. You can kind of forgive, his next fight as well. But this fight against Blake Bilder, like that one's kind of hard to forgive. That's a pretty green guy compared to the level of competition Shane Jung was accustomed to. Gabriel Miranda, a guy who came in there I believe it might have been short notice against Benoit Saint Denis, lost via TKO, like at the end of round 1 and at the beginning of round 2 officially. But at the same time, man, I just think that a pretty limited path to victory for Gabriel Miranda, like a round 1 submission. So I got to go with Shane Young, but I need plus money if we're going if we're going like a guy on a 3-fight losing streak. So any real opinion on either side here? I don't feel like betting this one either.
Yeah, I do have a pretty solid opinion on this one, really. Gabriel Miranda, when you look into this guy, 16-6, you're like, okay, decent record, but man, the level of talent is really not there. He's got some bad losses. I mean, lost to Benoit Saint Denis at this point ages well. You know what I mean? Like Benoit is looking very good. Shane Young, though, 3-fight losing streak. I mean, whoever wants to get on board a situation like that? Well, let me tell you something. I do. Why? You got to look at these 3 guys. I mean, honestly, like you said, Ludovic Klein and even Blake Bilder. Man, I'm pretty high on Blake Bilder. I actually think he fought a strategically dumb fight against Shane Young and still won, which I think is a very rare thing in MMA these days. But what I'm getting at is I think this is a pretty big step down for Shane Young. This is a guy in a very desperate spot at home in Australia, City Kickboxing. I'm going to go Shane Young here, and I am confident enough.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think if he gets out of round 1 and doesn't get subbed, and nobody's really been that successful in taking down Shane Young, holding him there. These CKB guys are pretty cat-like with staying on their feet. And I see a lot of holes in the game of Gabriel Miranda with his striking defense, even against low-level guys in the regionals. It's pretty bad. So I can see whoever does implement their game, it's going to be very strong. So I don't think this does see the scorecards. I think you're on the right side of it. As far as the money line is concerned, we're at minus 170 for Shane Young, Gabriel Miranda plus 145. So are you still seeing some value on that line for Shane Young?
We'll say value. I think we're getting close, but I do expect Shane Young to win this fight.
Gotcha. And yeah, Jousset Q in the house saying, there's a clear pattern. 13 of his 15 subs are in round 1. So that prop could be a sprinkle if you want to hedge. That's like the only way this guy has proven to win fights. If you can wrap up something on Shane Young, we see the 4th twister in the UFC this Saturday from Gabriel Miranda, but hopefully not. This will be a fight. If Kevin Jousset doesn't get it done, I think Shane Young is being teed up for a City Kickboxing win here to start the night. But dude, with a 4th loss in a row, do you think the UFC would forgive that one, or do you think they would just show him the door, losing to Gabriel Miranda?
Oh, listen, they're not going to let him back on the plane. That's why they kept it in Australia. They're like, listen, dude, you're at home. You don't need to come back to the PI. You're staying here.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. And the team CKB keeps on rolling along into the next bout at 170. We got Blood Diamond Mike Mathetha taking on Charlie Radtke, whose nickname is Chuck Buffalo. So I think Charlie Radtke should take a page out of Mike Mathetha's book and just forget his normal name and it should be Blood Diamond versus Chuck Buffalo in this one at welterweight. But obviously Blood Diamond, the only reason this guy's in the UFC is he's the training partner, kickboxing professional partner of Israel Adesanya in the mean streets of China back in the day. These guys had each other's back, I guess. Blood Diamond, legendary, 100 plus kickboxing matches. I guess he was supposed to have won most of those. But overall, he looks very awkward in MMA. He's only 3-2, 0-2 in the league, and losing to a Koski brother, not the best look in his last performance, but a decision loss nonetheless. Charlie Radtke making his debut, and this guy actually has more of a well-rounded game than I thought he would have, Bleed. He's a jiu-jitsu coach, BJJ black belt out of the Midwest, now training down south, but his striking doesn't look that bad from what I've seen. A couple really clean knockouts with that short left hook of his. So looking at both guys, and especially looking at the tape of Charlie Radtke, what impresses you, if anything, out of both of these guys?
Well, here's what I thought looking at this fight. So coming into this fight, I'm not super familiar with Charlie Radtke, right? I'm super familiar with Blood Diamond. So I'm looking at the matchup initially. I'm like, man, Blood Diamond in Australia, 2-fight losing streak. You got to think if he loses 3, they're probably going to let him go. How far does the favor with Izzy go? You know what I mean? But I said to myself, Charlie Radtke, man, this is probably a guy coming from a boxing background. They're probably giving him a striker or something, he can go in there with. have a good stand-up war and, maybe get his hand raised. I go watch the tape, and Charlie Radtke's just shooting and taking down everybody. So this is a fight where Blood Diamond either is exactly the same dude he was, maybe pulls off a first round and then becomes the guy he was, or just outright learned how to stop takedowns and wins the fight. But I got to tell you, how often is it that you see a guy get dominantly taken down, lose the fight, can't get up? Next fight, dominantly taken down, can't get up, loses the fight. And then the next fight, incredible takedown defense, and he's putting a whooping on that guy. The guy trying to take him down is tired, and he just puts it on him.
Yeah,
doesn't really happen.
No, especially with those specialists. Like we talked about Miranda being a specialist in BJJ. Blood Diamond is just the opposite side of the coin.
Absolutely. And I mean, I think it's honestly one of those things too, that Blood Diamond is such a kickboxer on a genetic level that in the gym, I bet he has good takedown defense. I bet he has very good transitions. I bet he knows exactly what he's doing. In the corner, the team's very confident going into the fight. But under the bright lights, the adrenaline's kicking in. This guy's punching you in the face. You're a kickboxer again, right? You're making mistakes. This guy's taking you down. All of a sudden, you forgot what you need to do. And your corner's telling you to get to an elbow. You know what I mean? It's just one of those situations. And I hate to say it, I lean towards Blood Diamond probably still being that guy. I think we're going to see him struggle. Charlie Radtke looks like a dog on a bone to me. Pretty obvious fight here, pretty binary. On the feet, Blood Diamond. On the mat, Radtke. I think Radtke's going to get it done. I think even if Blood Diamond shows an improved takedown defense through the first few minutes, I would actually love that, because then we could, get some live bet action. People are like, oh my God, Blood Diamond, he learned how to stuff a takedown. Maybe he stuffs the first two, works his way off the cage. But I think eventually Radtke is going to outwork him, going to crack him, get him on the mat, probably even potentially be live for a finish. I think Radtke's much more dangerous when he gets to the mat than whichever one of the Kosi brothers that was. But I like I'll say I don't like Blood Diamond's chances here. And honestly, I'm surprised they gave him this type of a matchup in Australia.
Yeah, it's a tough one. And I like your live betting spot, because you do want to soften up this number. Even though it is Charles Radtke, we're saying he's got a lot of strength in this fight, especially on the mat. He is still a minus 310 favorite. I think the best we're looking at is plus a minus 285. Just a lot to ask on a debut spot here across the pond.
True.
But still, though, I think he wins. Not a lot of extra value on the bone. I might look for the props. I do have the under in this fight, the under 2.5 at minus 185. I have played that. Because I do think it's, Mike Mathitha, he's got like a kickboxer's chance. But I think only spot I kind of disagree with you is I think Radtke does have a shot to actually make this competitive on the feet. Just from the threat of the takedown, Radtke does have fast hands. He's got a really good fake. He fakes the jab, comes over the top with that slapping left hook, putting people's lights out. And Mike Mathitha carries his hands pretty low, man. Like he's very awkward on the feet, even as a really highly credentialed kickboxer, I'll say, with a lot of experience. But yeah, I've seen some people even break down this fight saying that, Radtke's not a guy on the regionals that goes for a lot of takedowns. But if you watch, his striking is actually so good against some of these lower level guys that they're taking him down, and he just reverses position. He doesn't even have to initiate the grappling. Next thing you know, he's reversed you. He's putting the hooks in, and that's how he won his last fight for the CFFC title against Raheem Forrest. I think he countered him, stuffed the takedown, got the arm triangle, got the back, and then subbed him out quickly after in round one. And that was a pretty decent guy in the regionals, Raheem Forrest. So I like this guy's level of competition has been gradually increasing as he's gone through this, and I think he gets the W here inside the distance. Call it like a round one, round two submission, but just playing that under for now. But I like your live betting angle again. Hopefully Blood Diamond can play, like I said, just stay on his feet in round one, show a little inkling of improvement early. We get a softer number on Radtke going into round two, and he gets the job done shortly thereafter. So once again, we find ourselves on the same side of this one. What are we looking at here? We're looking at 2 city kickboxing victories so far, and now the first loss, if we're predicting this correctly. But we can move on to the next one at 155. This is an interesting fight. We've got another debutant in Landon Quinones taking on a UFC veteran of 10 fights in Nasrat Haqparast. But oddly enough, these guys are not even that old. They're about the same age, roughly Nasrat 28, Landon 27, and dude, it's a massive favorite price tag for Nasrat Haqparast. Like my eyes kind of popped out of my head when I saw we're looking at minus 470 to minus 500 for Nasrat. Landon Quinones, the guy who just got subbed on The Ultimate Fighter earlier this year, he's plus 370. Although his record is decent, Landon's only 7-1 and 1 draw. His one loss came by split decision against Muhammadjan Naimov, who we saw upset Jamie Mullarkey in the UFC. So in this fight, what justifies this minus 470 price tag on Nasrat Haqparast?
Probably nothing. I think that's definitely just way too heavy on the Nasrat side. I mean, do I think he should be the favorite? Absolutely. Do I expect him to win? Yeah, I do. I mean, it's another one of those spots we're talking, like you said it, right? Same age, but night and day in experience, right? Quinones having fought not a lot of people, and Nasrat Haqparast, this guy's, fought some of the upper echelon of the lightweight division, some of the future of the lightweight division. Now, it hasn't gone great for him, but honestly, he's hung in there. And at 28 years old, we're talking about a guy that any fight could show up and have broken through to another level. The thing is, and honestly, I'll put it like this. This is the kind of number on a guy like Nasrat Haqparast. I'm actually glad he's a minus 400. If he was a minus 185, my hand would be forced to bet him, and I'd kind of be sitting there, biting my fingernails, wondering what's this Quinones kid, going to bring out here in this fight, And he is training at Killcliff. He's also training at Dean Thomas's new upstart, the Goat Shed, which don't be surprised if you start hearing. We already have heard about a few guys coming out of there, but they're starting to pick up some steam. And I feel like those guys get kind of specialized attention because they are a smaller gym right now. Maybe there's a chance Landon Quinones comes in here with a good game plan, somehow beats Nasrat Haqparast, but how? I'm not really sure. And we're talking about a guy that 3 months ago got submitted by Jason Knight. I mean, current Walmart bag boy, Jason Knight. It's just, I don't know if I can back Landon Quinones here. Don't get me wrong. You got subbed in a minute. I feel like you almost don't knock it as much because it was such a fast submission. Right. They're so dry and whatnot, but another situation, I have to go Nasrat here, but if you are a strictly value bettor, you probably just take the blind shot on Quinones at this price.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that just because the price is so wild. Like, what is Haqparast without his finishing potential in this fight, too? This guy has only gotten one finish himself in the UFC. Out of his 10 fights, 8 of them have seen the scorecard. So with the judging the way it is, and you got
right.
like a 85-90% implied probability he wins this fight. Like it's it's nearing that by fight day. That's not leaving a lot of room for like just something weird to happen. We're entering almost like freak injury territory. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, I think they're almost a similar skill set. It's just Nasrat does it a little bit better, hits a little bit harder, moves a little bit more laterally, faster, a lot more experience. And more importantly, I think Landon Quinones, from what I've seen, he starts very slow in round one. In a 3-round fight, you're giving up a third of the fight already. And Nasrat is a guy who likes to dictate the pace early. If he gets momentum, he kind of keeps that momentum as he goes on. If you can pressure him early, then he kind of falls apart too. So with that opportunity in round one to get his feet wet, start pumping up that output, I think he's going to win this fight pretty clearly. But yeah, I mean, it's just a big price to pay. Like even parlaying this guy, it's not adding much, and it's going to be a big sweat since this probably does go to the scorecard. So yeah, I'm on the Haqparast side, have to be here, but yeah, I think the inherent value would probably fall on Quinones. So I don't fault anybody just taking that shot on him, like Bleed said. But we can keep moving along to a fight where another chalky favorite in the hometown guy, Jamie Mullarkey. Never thought I'd see Jamie Mullarkey as this big of a favorite for a while here, but especially after dropping his last fight to Muhammad Naimov as a massive favorite. He finds himself still a minus 260 favorite for Mullarkey. Takes on UFC veteran of like 12 years now, John Makdessi, Canadian striker, the plus 220 underdog. So two different styles of a fighter here. You've got the pressure forward brawling style of Jamie Mullarkey, who does have some good technical skills. Pumps a nice jab out there, pretty strong in the clinch, big for the weight class compared to John Makdessi, who's 4 inches shorter. And not to mention he's 38 years old at this point. Mullarkey's still in his 20s. So a lot of these like tail of the tape advantages for Jamie Mullarkey. I can see where the money line is listing him as a favorite, but cleaner striker by the numbers, I think, is John Makdessi, who is going to be on his back foot, going to be picking him off as he enters range and trying to stay out of that clinch. But I feel like there's a little bit of value on the Makdessi side. Kind of makes me want to pick him here, but at the same time, just so much going against him in the tail of the tape. And I feel like any fight here could be Makdessi's last. So I'm going to pick Mullarkey to win. But as far as the betting action, I'm probably staying off of this one. Do you have a more clear view of how this fight takes place?
Man, I think you pretty much nailed it. I mean, you see this fight playing out exactly like I do. I think there's a world where John Makdessi makes this a close fight. I think there's a world where John Makdessi wins this fight. But do I think it's our world? I don't think so. I got to go Jamie Mullarkey here. I mean, it's like you said, it's the age gap, I mean, if we had Yanni the Greek on here, he'd be hitting us with some stats about, the 9-year age gap. That's huge. I mean, in a weight class of 155, where are the successful 38-year-olds? You know what I mean? I'm sorry. You're ready for the senior league. You're ready for the retirement contract, the fight it out, fun fight scenario, right? And unfortunately, John Makdessi's been one of these guys. He's been in the UFC forever, but, he's had big gaps, comebacks, injuries. And here he is again coming off of another gap, which honestly, looking at his career, really not that big of a gap comparatively. I think you have to go Mullarkey, even though he's the favorite, even though he's taken the steam. Oh, but man, John Makdessi, this is a guy that's played spoiler. Let me take you back to the fight against Ignacio Bahamondes, a fight where Ignacio Bahamondes, big favorite, Makdessi, the underdog. Makdessi just went in there and essentially outdogged him. Is he going to outdog Jamie Mullarkey? Jamie Mullarkey don't really get outdogged. I got to go Jamie Mullarkey on this one, even though he is the steamy favorite.
Is there any way to chop down this number on Mullarkey? We kind of agree that his money line it's up there. Minus 260, trusting this guy who doesn't have very good striking defense. That worries me. We just saw him get knocked out by a young up-and-coming, really featherweight in Naimov not too long ago. Can we play Mullarkey inside the distance? I just feel like Makdessi's a clean enough striker. He could avoid danger in this one. But any way to play this from an alternate point of view? The overs, unders, anything to chop down this number?
Man, I don't think so. If you put a gun to my head, I'm straight betting Mullarkey because, like I said, Makdessi's been such a spoiler. I don't want to challenge my luck too much. I don't want to push the envelope, I mean, I feel like Mullarkey's getting it done however he gets it done. I probably lean towards a decision, though. I think maybe Mullarkey by decision. Makdessi, I don't think he's been finished a lot. I haven't looked at the numbers. I haven't looked at the props really at all in this fight. Props are not really how I make my money. Okay. I would stick with Mullarkey. Unfortunately, I would have much rather preferred that number earlier this week instead of the minus 250, 260 we're sitting at.
Yeah, I agree. I think even a split decision might be live here, to be honest, because you got the dynamic of one guy moving forward and Mullarkey holding clinch positions. You got the guy, cleaner striker, in my opinion, going to have his chance to catch him and play Matador. And one judge is going to say, yeah, that clinch time, I count that as winning the fight. And that guy was moving forward. And one guy's going to say, no, those punches didn't really land. I think the ones from Makdessi landed as he was moving backwards. There's going to be a bit of a disagreement potentially. You could see that split decision rearing its head in this fight. So could see it playing out that way. Could be close, man.
I hate to say it, that split decision prop, that could be very, very sharp.
Yeah, sometimes I sprinkle those in here and there. Take like a quarter unit or even a tenth of a unit on that. Maybe another one on both sides. Each guy to win is going to be even more multiplied. You cash in twice. Speaking of our guy MMA Jesus recognizing your OG status here, was there something back in the day, Bleed, like a fight, a moment, a UFC, a correct call on your part that made you say, yeah, this is my sport and this is how I'm going to make a living?
Yeah. When Chris Weidman beat Anderson Silva, the first fight,
really?
that, I told people stylistically the matchup. I mean, I was telling people after the Jesse Bongfeld fight that Chris Weidman was going to beat Anderson Silva. And, when I would talk to people about MMA, they go, I don't know who Chris Weidman is. They're like, I know Anderson Silva. I go to Buffalo Wild Wings. He beats a dude's ass. Everybody goes home. It's great. But I called it early on. I saw it coming. The trouble that Sonnen gave Anderson. I knew that Chris Weidman was going to win. Listen, did I know how he was going to do it? Absolutely not. I thought he was going to wrestle him and strangle him eventually at some point, but that was the one. I actually wasn't really deep into betting MMA, but a lot of my friends were already into betting on the sport. They saw how confident I was, and they put a lot of money on the spot, made a lot of money, and that's where I said, you know what? It's time for Daddy start making some money for himself and not just everybody else.
Nice. That's a great moment, man. And that was one where I was on the opposite side of you. I was with everybody else, man. And one of my buddies who wasn't into the sport at the time in 2013 asked me in the gym. He says, Patrick, who do you think is going to win that fight? Does Chris Weidman have a chance in this one? And I said, hell no, dude. Who do you beat? Mark Munoz? Knocked him out? That's a bum, dude. We need Vitor Belfort back in there. Get the rematch, knock out Silva, because I was a big Vitor Belfort fan. That's my guy, for life, So I was always upset whenever anybody else got the title shot besides Vitor. I said, Yushin Okami, no. Stephan Bonner, no. We need Vitor back in there for the rematch. That head kick, that front kick to the head was a fluke, and I was screaming that. So I did not see that knockout coming, and I did not cash out with you that night. But we got my guy Border Rage in here, the Motley Crew. Let's get it. Absolutely, man. Effie talking about his moment was Holly Holm and Ronda. Yeah, man, that was a shocking one back in 2015. That was for the people in the know at the time. That was a likely outcome, but at the same time, the women's divisions were so slim that anybody was looking like a superstar at any given moment. We're finally getting a little bit away from that here, but we still have those shocking upsets. My guy Tyler from 138 MMA in the house. What is going on? And Derek, you were right, man. And that guy still got it. He's still boxing people's heads off. You saw that boxing match with him and Jacare Souza earlier this year. He's still getting after it, even into his 40s at this point. I mean, it's pretty crazy to see. He doesn't look like TRT Vitor anymore, but he's still getting after it. So we can move right along. Where do we end off at? Featherweight bout up next between Jack Jenkins and Chepe Mariscal. This is back down to 145 for Chepe Mariscal, who made his debut last time against Trevor Peek in a decision win. I think that was UFC Jacksonville bleed, where the unders for that fight were almost a guarantee. It was like, does Trevor Peek knock this guy's head off in round one with a standing hammer fist, or does he gas out by round two and get finished? And they had a damn near fight of the night performance over 3 rounds. Chepe comes through, uses his wrestling, his defensive striking. Just shows he's just a real martial artist. And Trevor Peek is not in the trailer park, swinging hammer fists. That's just not working at this level. So he takes on Jack Jenkins, who has been in the UFC 2 fights now, off the Contender Series, local guy, and a guy who is a pretty competent striker. Obviously, we're going to hear about the leg kicks that he's broken people's, tibias and fibulas with. But other than that, man, this guy had a competitive fight with Don Shainis earlier this year, which did not impress me that much. And he arguably lost his last fight by split decision against Jamal Emmers, who's a pretty high-level guy. So, one fight kind of impressed me in the Jamal Emmers one for Jenkins, but the Don Shainis one is a big red flag that this guy can get taken down, reversed on the mat, and controlled there. So, whereas I think Jack Jenkins is the more competent striker, I still think he's a bit overrated, to be honest with you. And Chepe Mariscal is sitting at a plus money tag. We're looking at plus 170, Chepe Mariscal, Jack Jenkins minus 200. Why should I not be on the Chepe Mariscal side as this approaches closer to plus 180, plus 200 if we're so lucky? Why shouldn't I be on that side? That's how I'm leaning.
Well, I got to tell you, I was on the Chepe Mariscal side, and I was trying to convince myself that I shouldn't bet Chepe Mariscal. But after what you just said, oh my God, that's going to be tough. I mean, look, this just doesn't add up. This doesn't make any sense. All right. Chepe Mariscal, you said it, right? Comes in short notice against Trevor Peek. Now listen, Trevor Peek, The guy was never good. All right, I gotta let people know that. Guy hits hard, Southern hard-working blue-collar dude. But as far as like MMA skills, full-rounded fighter, that's not Trevor Peek, right? And when he got in there with a guy who was a well-rounded fighter and Kape Mariscal, it was exciting, but it was clear who the better fighter was. I bet a multitude of live bets on Kape Mariscal in that fight. And right now I'm in love with the guy. But no, seriously, I think Kape Mariscal is the side you got to go with. I was expecting this number to come down, and it really hasn't. Jack Jenkins, I'm with the majority of people. I think he lost that Jamal Emmers fight. You brought up the Don Shainis fight. Again, Don Shainis is, I don't know if the term UFC caliber really is that even a standard anymore, because the way I don't know, just current things.
It's like
just different.
It's like Dana White Contender Series caliber at this point. That's what you got to kind of measure it by.
Right.
Could they be in the Contender Series?
There you go. I think Don Shainis should be fighting his second or third fight on Contender Series, right? I don't see where this makes sense. Maybe when you look at it from an on-paper standpoint, but Mariscal has lost some fights, right? You look at his record, but look at who this dude's lost to. He was fighting guys that eventually made their way to the UFC and have had success. So this is a dude who is one UFC fight deep, but is 5 or 6 UFC level talent fights in. I've been debating it. It's time to man up. It's time to sack up. Kape Mariscal, it's going to be a bet. I'm going to go ahead and bet Kape Mariscal. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe it's a mistake. I don't think so. Listen, I'll say this. I know that the value's on Kape. Win or lose, and that's all this game comes down to. Kape Mariscal. That's the pick. That's the bet.
Yeah, there's a couple of spots where I could see, and I'm there with you. I haven't bet it yet because I've been waiting as the week goes on to see which way it goes, and it seems like it's going in the favor of Jack Jenkins. I see him added to parlays. I see him as the hometown guy as well. So as we get closer, you might get some of that popularity rub on the market. But yeah, I'm with you here at plus 170 to wherever it goes. I think it's a good price. Now, again, going against our bet, just to play devil's advocate, if this stays standing for all 3 rounds, do you still think Kape has a chance to win this fight?
Absolutely. Yeah, okay. Absolutely. I think Kape Mariscal can win this fight in any arena, probably. Jack Jenkins has just not impressed me. If anything, his ability to just win, I feel like, is his best attribute thus far. And Kape Mariscal, this guy has a certain edge to him, a certain attitude. I feel like this is a guy that's kind of getting to the big show late. Lost some fights that probably would have got him there earlier in his career.
Right.
And I feel like this is a dude we're going to see make up for lost time. I think we're going to see Kape. He's 1 fight in, right, on short notice, weight class up. I think he wins this fight. And of course, all fights are matchup dependent, but I would not be surprised to see Kape Mariscal, rip off a good 3 or 4 fight win streak here. I think this is a guy that is going to be underrated until we see a real breakthrough performance, which could be this Saturday.
Yeah, and just talking about his skill set too, and the places he's fought in all the major promotions, like you mentioned, not only just high-level guys that have seen their way in the UFC, or at least have seen their way out of the UFC. He's been on a 4-fight winning streak in Cage Warriors, Combate, LFA, UFC. This guy's making his rounds, so I don't even think traveling is a concern. This guy shows up anywhere, anytime, and throws it down. And against Trevor Peek, I know he's not fighting a technical guy, but he's fighting a guy who ate his best punches, elbows, knees, kicks for 3 rounds and didn't go anywhere. That's a big gut check and a big cardio check for a guy like Kape. So I was impressed with that. If Jack Jenkins gets pushed in that fight, I don't know if he gets the cardio is just a big aspect in this one too. I was very impressed with Kape. He's a well-rounded guy. He's got judo throws, some wrestling that he showed in his last fight as well. Hopefully he employs that in this fight. I think it would make it a much more sweat-free underdog. Because if it does stay striking for 3 rounds, that's Jack Jenkins' world. But on the mat, I think Kape can win those minutes. Not sure if he gets a finish, Jesse Q, and certainly not going to get the hometown judging, but it might be so apparent that they can't dispute it. And it'll just be a complete robbery, even more than the Jamal Emmers one was at least arguable in rounds 1 and rounds 2. This might be in a spot where hopefully he gets enough ground control time and strikes. It won't be that arguable. So either way, and speaking of, finishing potential in both guys, I know we've seen Steve Garcia and Joe Anderson Brito, pretty much flatline Chepe Mariscal in the past. Jack Jenkins is not a big finisher either. So he's more of a volume guy, more of a, attritional output guy. So I'm not too worried about him getting knocked out cold in this fight, but we will see, man. Hopefully we're on the right side. I'm glad we're lining up on damn near every fight so far. I'm sure things will get weird, especially as we move into the next fight at light heavyweight. Everybody's coming for my throat in this one, dude. It's Carlos Ulberg versus Da Un Jung. We got another city kickboxing representative, Carlos Ulberg, handsomest man alive, perhaps. I think that's why people are backing this guy so heavily this week. But he is skilled, former professional kickboxer, a guy who's kind of transitioned to MMA pretty smoothly, right? I mean, in the light heavyweight division, something that's pretty volatile. He tasted that in his first fight against Kennedy and Zetriku. Threw an enormous amount of strikes at Kennedy, and Kennedy the Black Homer Simpson just came right through in round 2 and knocked him out cold. Am I wrong? That's basically what happened. And Da Un Jung is a guy I think he's had some good performances and some pretty bad ones too. People want to talk about him going to the scorecards with Sam Alvey. They want to talk about him in his last performance, losing to Devin Clark. I just think it's a totally different matchup here in Ulberg, who's still talented but one-dimensional, and we've seen him knock out bum after bum bleed. We've seen him knock out Tafana Nchukwi, Nikolai Negumereanu, Ihor Pateria, which is the most recent and the easiest fight. So this is a big step up in competition, yet we're still lining this guy at close to minus 300 at this point, minus 280, minus 275s out there. Some books even have gone past that threshold to minus 320. I just think it's likely he wins this fight, and likely by knockout, but he's only shown to do that in round 1 recently. I don't know what this guy's cardio looks like. I don't know what his takedown defense looks like. I think Da Un Jung has got a better chance than his line indicates. So if we're talking about things from a betting perspective, I do like Da Un Jung to just have the chance to wrestle, clinch up, take this fight into 2 and 3, and hopefully win. I do have just a 3/4 unit bet on him at plus 225. I'm prepared to watch that go up in flames in round 1 via knockout the way that Jacoby did. But at the same time, I can't justify this price on Ulberg. So are you going with the handsomest man in the world with washboard abs here?
Well, I currently don't fight, but the second most handsome man in the world, Carlos Ulberg. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to be forced to, it's one of these situations where it breaks down as simple as this. I'm going to pick Carlos Ulberg to win the fight, right? If you put a gun to my head and said, put your money where it makes the most sense, I'm putting it all on Da Un Jung, right? This fight I expect to come out vastly closer than what it's lined at. So as far as your bet goes, mathematically, theoretically, strong bet. Love it. Love the number. I feel like light heavyweight, and especially both these guys, it's like you said, Carlos Ulberg, man, puts everything on Kennedy and Nchukwi. Looks like every dude in the world would. There were so many times where I was like, I can't believe the ref's just not stopping the fight. Then he survives, catches Ulberg, puts him away. Da Un Jung fights Kennedy and Nchukwi, clips him with an elbow that you really don't even see watching the fight, and Kennedy just crumbles. You know what I mean? So, and what I'm getting at is I feel like when we look at this situation as a whole, it speaks to the division. Light heavyweight is so freaking volatile. These guys are so big. They're all so dangerous. They're usually much faster than a heavyweight. A lot of them honestly hit harder than a heavyweight. They're more athletic. They're stronger. A lot of these heavyweights, let's keep it real, they're just some fat dudes going out there and fighting and not wanting to keep on a strict diet. A lot of these guys could be fighting light heavyweight, even middleweight. They just don't want to, and I don't blame them. But what I'm saying is light heavyweight as a whole, with both these guys in this mix, minus 300 Carlos Ulberg makes no sense. And maybe there's a chance he goes out there, takes out Da Un like it's nothing, but that's not how I'm seeing this fight play out most of the time. I think there's a good chance we see this fight turn into a war of attrition, right? Go deep, and whoever whoever's left standing is going to get the dub. And I think that Jung's got a better chance than essentially where the line sits. Is it forcing my hand to bet on him? No. This is when I'm going to sit back, try to find a live spot on. Again, though, I'm not even going to be confident then. This fight smells like one of those fights where we see momentum shift back and forth. It looks like this guy's going out. Oh, my God. Now, all of a sudden, this guy gets hit with a crazy shot. Now, it looks like he's on the verge of being taken out. I smell action in this matchup. I smell danger, and it's keeping me off the fight as a whole. Carlos Ulberg minus 300. You're right. Makes no sense. Jung minus 225. Still got to pass.
Yeah. So what are you talking about live betting here? You're live betting on the Jung side if he's or which side? You know, it just depends on the feeling. How would you determine something like that?
Yeah. I mean, what I probably would anticipate, essentially let round one go by, right? Unless there's some gigantic moment that, seems to really impact the fight. But I'm thinking probably by, the midway point of round two, someone's going to be in the driver's seat. And I'm hoping that the live line still has enough meat on the bone, as we say, to make a move. At the same time, I could see myself thinking, oh, man, I got a nice live number on this guy. He's picking up the pace. Everything's looking good. He's winning the round. Bam! He's out like a light. So volatile fight. I like I said, I smell something fishy here. And when I smell something fishy, I'm usually pretty accurate. So it's a pass for me, maybe even a pass on the live spot. And, man, that's a rarity for me.
Yeah, I got excited when I saw this pretty early on. I thought the money line would tighten up, and it hasn't. It's actually stayed right where it's been for a while. Even Ulberg taking some juice here. But when I saw a guy in Ulberg who's been bum after bum, round one after round one, kickboxer, haven't really seen a lot of his game tested. And I saw a guy in Jung who was, just kind of a fan favorite against guys like Dustin Jacoby before he lost that fight. He's been kind of a guy who brings more to the table than just striking and heavy hands. Striking for striking early on in this fight, I think it's Ulberg all day, but I'm going with your volatility take in this division. Even if this was a different division, you take this down to 155, 170, 145, it's a whole different game. But with that equalizing power that you have in light heavyweight, I think it's a bet I had to make on that plus money side. So I'll be on the edge of my seat for that one. It should be fun. Light heavyweight is one of my favorite divisions. And just speaking on that, like back in the day, remember when the belt would change hands? Like, I guess it still is. Like every other fight, there'd be nobody defending the light heavyweight strap because everybody's just, it's anybody's coin toss as to who wins the belt. You take it from Liddell to the Jackson to the Forrest Griffin to the Rashad Evans to the Lyoto Machida, to the Shogun Hua. It's just back and forth,
Listen, in 2006, 2007, the era you're talking about, don't get me wrong, I was a much younger man, but I would be like, listen, I'm going to tell you guys right now, It is the Shogun era. No one is taking this man out, right? Then I'd be like, listen, it is the Machida era. No one's on this guy's level. Yeah. But I tell you what, I was right eventually when I said, it's the John Jones era. Nobody's taking this kid out.
Right.
For John Jones.
Yeah. The only guy that could beat himself, John Jones. Yeah, it was a great time for that division. And it was a good time. It was a good time even for the heavyweight division, but with USADA coming in, obviously human physiology, you're not supposed to be that big and be as cut as a 205 or a 265. So now we're seeing guys that look like Josh Parisian making up half of the division. So they need to get the USADA out of here and get us back to those glory days, Bleed.
You're telling me, brother. I am a staunch supporter of PEDs. I'm on PEDs right now. Okay, they work great. I want everybody on PEDs. Yeah, look at me. Hit them with it. Let's go.
Now you're talking my language, but we finally have made it through the prelims here. We go on to the main pay-per-view card, starting off with the 205 bout. Once again, we got Tyson Pedro, hometown hero, taking on Anton Turkalj, the pleasure man, comes in here. This is a very closely lined fight. Could be a sloppy fight, kind of like the one we just spoke on. This could be a very volatile matchup at light heavyweight. Once again, Tyson Pedro, a guy who has not seen success outside of round one. This guy is a striker if you watch his fights in round one recently, but he's really a grappler by trade. He wants to get the fight to the mat, and he can kind of take over there. But if the clock strikes 5 minutes and he's forced to go out there off the stool, he's not winning fights. That's just not been proven. He had a long layoff due to knee injuries for like 3 years, and now he's taken out Harry Hunsucker, Ike Villanueva, and he lost last time as a favorite to Modestas Bukauskas. Now he takes on Anton Turkalj, who himself has been unsuccessful in the UFC so far, 0-2 against Gelton Almeida and also last time against Vitor Petrino. But in the Vitor Petrino fight we just saw this year, this guy has a granite chin, very hard to put out. Even on the mat, this guy is pretty slippery. He's kind of a creepy dude as far as how explosive he is early in the fight with his spinning strikes, how tough he is to finish on all aspects of the game. I can't help but think, Bleed, that if Turkalj comes in here and can survive the onslaught of round one, he could take over this fight in 2 and 3. So I'm actually on the Anton Turkalj side. I take him at plus 115, just kind of a fun to root for guy. I'm a big proponent of fading Tyson Pedro and fading guys who can't go past round one at this level. But do I think Turkalj is a great fighter? Not really. I think Tyson Pedro has a great chance of finishing him in round one. So I do have a small bet on Pedro by round one sub at plus 850 as well as kind of a hedge to that bet. So I think I've covered the angles on this one. Pedro falling apart after round one or just getting the job done early. So I guess give me the even money pick of the Pleasure Man here. What do you feel about this fight? And what do you think about the Pleasure Man? Do you like this guy's shtick?
Oh man, I'm very pleasured. I was pleasured when I saw this line, honestly. Because I'm with you. I mean, Tyson Pedro, this is a guy who, if I were to make a list of guys who I'm questioning their heart, questioning their drive, questioning their motivation in the octagon, you know, the body language, the face, when the going gets tough, Tyson Pedro gets out. Okay. And it's like you said, first rounder bust. I think Turkalj, this isn't a tough formula to follow, right? Survive 5 minutes and then win. That's what it is. Turkalj's a good grappler. I think maybe round one's close. Maybe Tyson Pedro squeaks out round one. I really don't see him getting a finish. I think Turkalj, you know, in the loss in his last fight, actually impressed me. I did not expect him to even hang as well as he did in that matchup against a guy that kind of looks like an oncoming monster. I think Turkalj might come in here and just from the jump roll all over Tyson Pedro. I mean, I really think so. I think there's a chance that Turkalj comes out here, shows that he's just the better, faster, more athletic guy that's just going to come out here and get it done. And I feel like you said, Tyson Pedro, first rounder bust, and I really don't like his chances. I think Tyson Pedro is on the way out. I think Anton Turkalj, not the best fighter I've ever seen, but I do think this is a guy that could develop. I love me a guy that has grappling skills that goes in there and actually grapples. Turkalj's that guy. I'm taking Turkalj, and I'm confident he should get this win.
Damn, I didn't think that you would be confident on that side, but because I'm really not that confident. You know, I think it's a good chance, but I think that round one might be a sweat just because of how defensively liable Anton Turkalj is shown to be. And I know how much of a sniper Pedro can be, long-rangey strikes. He's not the worst guy in round one, but it really is just that, and then he falls apart. Now, against Modestas Bukauskas, I bet him at plus 200 last time.
So did I.
Yeah, because I thought that he would have the technical striking to go 3 rounds. Clearly not the highest level guy, and he had just made his return to the UFC. But against the guy in Tyson Pedro, he just survived that round one. Then you can dance all over him. And we had a guy in Modestas who's just as tall, just as rangy, able to kickbox effectively in those later rounds. Now, Anton's a big guy too. He's got probably the same measurables, but just that striking defense. You know, I worry sometimes because you see this dynamic Bleed where it's like a Chris Moutinho versus a Sean O'Malley where he eats a bunch of punishment and you say, wow, this guy's chin is made of granite. Nobody's going to finish him. And then he gets finished his very next fight. Hopefully we don't see that dynamic from Anton where he ate massive Brazilian hooks from the monster in Vitor Petrino. And now watch Tyson Pedro finishes him easily in round 1. Like I worry about something like that happening. Just a feeling, probably not, any sort of reality tied to that, but I worry about that thing happening. So I'm going to be sweating out round 1 in this fight. But like I said, I did hedge it with that Pedro round 1 sub. I think that's really his likely path in this one. But Anton Turkalj, a guy, like you said, good grappling. He trained at the All-Stars gym with Alexander Gustafsson. Even on the Contender Series, they didn't give him a contract because Dana White was in a pissy mood last year during week 1. I think it was. But, yeah, remember that? He didn't give it like anybody a contract because Anton Turkalj didn't chase the finish, but he had like 14 minutes of control time. So he did his job. He got 1 million takedowns. You know what I mean? So hopefully he can employ that game plan here, stay safe from all the grappling tricks of Pedro, and get that bet cash for both of us here. So what is going on, Eli? Good to see you, brother. I'm glad the UFC's in your neck of the woods, along with my guy Daz Files this Saturday. So, man, you were we're lining up on some of these dogs here that I thought people would kind of clown me for picking. So glad we're having a good first meeting breaking down these fights. Maybe we'll differ on this heavyweight banger, the rematch of the century. Everybody wanted to see Justin Tafa versus Austin Lane. Hopefully we don't get Austin Lane knuckle deep, balls deep in the eye socket of Justin Tafa this time. And now it's on the home court of Justin Tafa. So not a guy I'm impressed in very much at all, Justin Tafa. But I did pick him to win the fight last time, picked him to win by first round knockout. I don't think the durability of Austin Lane is all that great, although I think he's the more improved fighter. His wrestling looks better. The former NFL, I think he was a defensive lineman. But Justin Tafa, now that the books know where our money went, they know where the public's money went. Now he's opened up as what he closed at last time, right? He's like a minus 200 favorite. Kind of grosses me out for Justin Tafa, who I think is not the most technical guy. And if he doesn't get the job done by knockout, could Austin Lane just distance strike him to death, the next couple of rounds? What do you feel about this one?
I mean, I think you said it best. Austin Lane, obviously the more well-rounded guy. The Tafa's, just look at him. I mean, I don't think if someone named Tafa walks in the room, I don't need to ask them, what do you do? I know that it's a giant dude that kicks shit until it's dead. You know what I mean? Like that's just, that's how that goes. And that's what Tafa's going to do here. Austin Lane, yeah, he's going to have to, sachet Olay the bull, right? The aggression of Tafa. Tafa needs only one shot. And now I know anybody at heavyweight, only one shot, but Tafa, a little bit different. I mean, I think he honestly could probably hit you, graze you and put you out. This guy just has that unfathomable power, right? I think Austin Lane, what's he going to do to win this fight? Does he have the wrestling to go in here, put Tafa, hold him up against the cage, find a takedown? Maybe he does. Maybe he does have that skill set. Have I seen that as of yet in his career up till now? Absolutely not. I mean, I feel like Austin Lane's going to come in here, probably give Tafa the fight he wants, which is basically a straight-up kickboxing match, and Justin Tafa in a straight-up kickboxing match. Yeah, I'm going to have to take Justin Tafa to win. I mean, it's really that simple for me.
Yeah, and not even speaking of the power of Justin Tafa, but you matched it with the durability, the lack of durability for Austin Lane. If you watch this guy's knockout losses, he's going out cold. Greg Hardy knocked him out cold on the Contender Series. I think he got a lot of improvements going on in the regional scene and getting like another 9 pro fights. But the fight where he got knocked out by Frank Tate, guy knocked him out cold, like lifeless cold. So, yeah, I think it's going to just take one from Tafa here. It's just if that one doesn't come, what happens after that? What if these guys get tired? Do they have finishing potential later as this fight goes? I don't think that there's much of a finishing potential from the Austin Lane side. Do you?
Not much, man. I mean, listen, I almost feel like the Austin Lane side finish comes in a situation where we see Tafa absolutely gas out to the point that he just can't continue. And Austin Lane's like just putting something out there type situation, You got to remember, this is the only man to ever miss weight at heavyweight. Tafa, my man knows how to pack it on. So, hey,
wait. I think he was the first, but Chris Barnett followed right after. Huggy Bear.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I was thinking about that.
Well, man, you're right. Isn't that crazy that it took how many years for that to happen, and then it happens right again?
Yeah, like 29 years for that to happen, and then
right.
We got You got two fat asses back. The USADA thing, I'm telling you, the USADA thing is hurting us.
You're right. You know what, though, Chris? Well, I'm going to give it to Tafa. Tafa's got that Samoan bone structure. Chris Barnett, that dude just eats too much hot Cheetos, I think. But back to the fight. Sorry, guys. Yeah, I mean, I just don't like Austin Lane's chances here. How is he going to be able to avoid the power throughout even the first round, second round? Man, I don't see it. I think Tafa wins this fight. Austin Lane, again, survive the onslaught and just get this fight to deep waters. A pretty simple game plan, and I think that's what he needs to do. Is he going to go out there and do that, though? Man, I don't think so. I think the dude's going to go out there and try to trade with Tafa. You know, he's the taller man, longer guy.
Yeah.
But it's just a strategic mistake. And honestly, I expect him to go out there with that plan.
Yeah, the bet that Jousset Q is calling out, the Lou Betya Yambag fight. So what that means, Bleed, is my guy Lou Betya is a content creator for a channel called the MMA Engine. He gives out really high payout props and calls these things at a pretty high clip. And his favor is the Yambag prop, and that means somebody gets hit in the Yambags and a point gets deducted somehow in the fight, which on BetMGM and DraftKings, it's plus 2,000 by default. So he looks for certain things, switching stances, repeat offenders that have already gotten fouled for eye pokes before, grabbing the cage, trying to defend takedowns. So my guy Lou Betya is the man, and he calls these Yambag plays, cashes those plus 2,000s more often than you would expect. So
hold on a second. Let me check on that. So it's a simple point deduction. If there's a point deducted, you win, and it's a plus 2,000 essentially until action comes in on it.
Yeah, draft. It never changes really. Like unless the fighters have gotten fouled. Like I think Greg Hardy is the only guy that ever had one where it was like a plus 1,800.
Okay. Okay.
So it's usually by default. Like nobody plays these except for like me and Lou and whoever else is subscribed to the channel. But
you know what?
2,000 for a point deducted. Cameron Simon is my guy for this, man. He's the guy who's always getting points deducted, and it still is priced plus 2,000. So that's the guy to watch out for. I'm
limited on DraftKings, but I tell you what, BetMGM. After talking to you guys today, Lou Betya, I'm on that one with you, boy.
There we go. So I'm the same side of the heavyweight, but unfortunately, guys, it's one of those spots probably will have to pass because even the knockout prop for Tafa, like they knew that we're going to hit that, and that's been bet down quite a bit. Where it's like even money, maybe even
Tafa and Tafa by KO is the same price.
Yeah, it's like the same. So
actually, Tafa straight pays better than Tafa by KO at this point.
Even round one, like even if you go round one, it's not that much difference. So yeah, not interested. But we move on to a pretty big mismatched fight. This is a short notice fight at flyweight between Starboy Manel Kape as he takes on a newcomer, debuting fighter by the name of Felipe dos Santos from Shoot the Box, one of these blonde-haired Brazilians that's offense is basically their defense, goes in there, probably going to show insane durability, good aggression, and probably limited defense and limited experience too. 7-0 for Felipe dos Santos. Manel Kape is a guy who's been fighting at the high level for a long time pre-UFC over in Rizin, high-level Asian opposition there. He came in as, I think Manel Kape came in as like the alternate for the flyweight title should Davison or Moreno miss weight. So this guy's been like in the title picture since the jump in 2020. So very huge mismatch in experience here, which, the bookies see as well. And we currently have Manel Kape as a massive minus 400 favorite. Felipe dos Santos about a plus 300 underdog here. Hard to deny, but the only worry about the Manel Kape side bleed is just how low output this guy can be at times. Now, recently he seems to be changing that fact and not counter-striking so much early, but, he dropped his first couple decisions in the UFC just from indecision, just not making the first move and maybe getting taken down in a few spots. But I think the wrestling, submission ability, striking, power, experience all goes in the favor of Manel Kape in this fight. So is there a way to play him from a betting perspective here? Or are you on the Felipe dos Santos side?
Gosh, I mean, I got to go Manel here. As much as you want to try to do something with this fight, I mean, it is Felipe dos Santos coming out of Shoot the Boxa, right? Diego Lima. So I don't know if he just you come in and he just has bleach ready to go. You walk in the gym, they do a a baptism in some bleach, because if you're not rocking that white, that silver white hair, I don't think they let you get on the plane or something.
They even got our boy Clayton last week or the week before.
I know it. At this point, I think it's just spreading like fire throughout Brazil, But so he's one of these guys, and what I'm saying is, shoot the box. He's a shoot box guy. Comes forward, winging shots, powerful, absolutely dangerous. But when I watch this kid on tape, there's some problems, right? Way too comfortable off of his back. I almost feel like he's one of these guys that relies on his jiu-jitsu so much that he's actually okay with you attempting a takedown. Actually will essentially just lay into the takedown. And then he's really just accepting position off his back. And when you dig into his record, he's got a few subs that he's hit off his back, arm bars, a couple guillotines, blah, blah, blah. But at this level, like you said, we're talking about a guy that literally walked into the UFC at least what the UFC considered title level talent. With 8 pro fights, I mean, there's a lot going against this kid. I think that Starboy fights a clean fight. I think he incorporates some wrestling. We haven't seen a lot of it from Manel as far as when he fought stateside. But when he was fighting in Japan, he was one of those guys that would actually wear wrestling shoes and, really showed that skill set, especially against a guy who you think is probably going to come out here super hot, super aggressive, come forward style. I think it would serve Manel very well to lean on some wrestling here. Every moment this fight's on the feet is a moment that Felipe has a chance to win the fight. I think if he's put on his back, Manel cruises here, maybe even finishes the fight with some ground and pound. Another one of those situations, I got to go Manel Kape, but what are we doing here? What are we digging into a prop? Man, I don't know. Debuting fighter, young kid, 22 years old. I got to pick Manel Kape to win, but from a gambling standpoint, pretty easy pass for me.
That's unfortunate, man. I'm a big fan of Manel Kape. Would love to throw him in some parlays, but it's like at minus 400. And the thing that scares me about these blonde-haired Brazilians is they have a habit of making, not saying it happens here, I think this is a separate case of like a really big skill discrepancy on short notice, but how many times have we seen a Rolando Bedoya come in there, make a close fight in a debut short notice fight, an Elvis Brenner, a Daniel
Brenner, perfect.
Santos. Yeah, like spots like that where all of them are like, man, that was a close decision, and that guy looked a lot closer than a minus 300 would indicate. So that does scare me here. And against the guy who can be showboaty in Manel Kape, he's a character. He can pull a stunt here and there and lose minutes on the clock when he clearly shouldn't be. I could see that happening, but I don't think this guy in Dos Santos will be very hard to find. Luckily for Kape, probably going to march right forward, fight like a shoot to box guy, and I think Manel Kape is going to just, dance laterally, find his shot, something explosive, flying knee, spinning kick, or just catch him over swinging and take him down like you mentioned. So multitude of paths to victory. I can see what this price is the way it is, but no way to really glean an edge on it, in my opinion, unless you want to get crafty with some props. I know that's not bleed style, but if you want to play Manel Kape inside the distance, again, a shoot-to-box guy, though. These guys are tough, so maybe that would point you in the submission direction. I don't know. I'll have to play around with the props here, but probably a pass for me betting-wise. But we got my guy Tyler talking about props here. Dos Santos by KO is plus 1,400. He's got Kape in a parlay, but he threw $10 on that one just in case. All right. I mean, not bad. I mean, the guy does have a couple knockouts on his record, Manel Kape. He's never been knocked out, though, before. I don't think he has. He's been subbed a couple times, but never been knocked out. Maybe this will be the spot. Who knows? But Manel Kape's got one of those weird, like, little round-shaped heads, kind of like a BJ Penn, where I feel like he's just immune to getting, like, knocked out. That's certain.
I mean, it's a proven fact. Some guys just take punches better.
Like, he's got, like, no point of his chin where it's kind of rounded, There's no real angle for the cranium to tilt, and you get, loss of consciousness. We'll see, man. Maybe we'll throw him in there in your favorite sport, your bare knuckle boxing. Maybe we'll throw Kape in there when his MMA career is over.
Oh, he's definitely going to be BKFC, and no doubt. Give him 5 years.
Yeah, absolutely. So we can move right along. Thank you guys for showing up, all 30 of you in the live chat as we cruise through this epic pay-per-view down under at UFC 293, Adesanya versus Strickland. Thank you to my man Blade for being here. It's been a great time. You guys can follow him through his social media links and his Patreon, which is linked in the description if you want further content from the legend himself, the OG of the game, Bleed MMA. It is a complete honor to have you here, my friend. We move into the co-main event at heavyweight, Tai Tuivasa versus Alexander Volkov. Fan favorite, Tai Tuivasa, not looking the best lately on a 2-fight losing streak. The Russian Muay Thai striker in Alexander Volkov, it's on a 2-fight winning streak, both by knockout. So just a complete contrast in the way these guys' careers have been lately. But all it takes is one from Tai Tuivasa, and you look up and this guy just knocked you out, and he's chugging beer out of his shoe on the top of the cage. So a scary sight to see as you wake up, I would imagine. Right now, the money line we have is Alexander Volkov sitting around like a minus 250. Tai Tuivasa about a plus 200 or so underdog. I'll let you start this one off, Bleed. What do you see in this fight? I mean, it seems to be a pretty basic fight from what I see.
Yeah, I'm with you absolutely. I mean, we know who these guys are through and through, right? I think this fight's priced pretty fairly, but man, I think Volkov wins this fight. I mean, this fight to me looks so similar to Alexander Volkov versus Derek Lewis. A fight that Alexander Volkov won 14 minutes and 50 seconds of and lost, got knocked out. And just like that fight, that's very possible here. I mean, Tai Tuivasa, one of those guys, one of these Pacific Islander dudes that regardless of how much damage they've taken, regardless of how beat down they are, if they plant their feet and swing and they hit you in the head, you're probably going out. And it makes him dangerous in any situation as a heavyweight, right? But we've seen kind of the limitations of Tai Tuivasa. We know this guy's not ultra technical. We know this guy's not too crafty. Pretty straightforward guy, going to rely on his durability. Really just going to go out there, put on a fun fight, make it a war of attrition, and hopefully he's the last man standing. That's not Volkov. That's not Volkov. Volkov goes out there smart, tactical, good long jab, uses all the tools that God gave him as a 7'8" man, right? I'm just kidding. He's 6'8", 6'7". He might still be growing. Speaking of which, when he fought Stefan Struve, there was only like 2 inches of height difference. One of those guys lying about their height. Either way, Volkov.
It's like WWF rules where they bill, Kane is 7'7" or something. Really,
6'10" Undertaker.
Yeah, right. It's like those are the rules for Struve.
Hey, it is. Listen, I've said for years, they measure your reach. They will write down anything you say for height. They don't measure height. Okay, we learned that when Shane Carwin and Brock Lesnar faced off. It was like 6'4" versus 6'3". I've seen both those guys in person. They're 6 feet tall. Okay. So, all right. Back to the fight, though. Sorry, I'm getting distracted here. Volkov, very tall man, very long. He uses the jab. He uses his skills. Dare I say, I almost expect this to be an easy fight for Volkov. I'm quite confident in Volkov here. I think that this fight's more dependent on Volkov making a massive mistake or two than it is Tai Tuivasa coming out here and enacting a solid game plan. I just feel like Volkov is so many levels beyond that it really is truly just going to be the puncher's chance for Tai Tuivasa here.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. Now, it doesn't scare me that Tai Tuivasa has this kind of power. Yeah, but unlike Derek Lewis, who made a career out of not only round 1 stoppages, but 2, 3, even a round 4 stoppage, this guy carried his power late, no matter how tired he looked. Tai Tuivasa's got 13 of his 14 wins by knockout, all of them under 1.5 rounds. So as the clock ticks on, mathematically, statistically, it goes in the favor of Volkov, who I don't think is going to let him into range all that easily. So, yeah, and we also got to be honest about the career knockouts of Tai Tuivasa as of lately, right? We're talking about the Stefan Struve at the end of his career. I think it was a punch to the body, big uppercut against the cage. Harry Hunsucker, freebie, Greg Hardy, freebie. Augusto Sakai, kind of look like a free square at this point. And then, of course, the nice elbows against Derek Lewis, who's sort of on the decline as well. So 5-fight winning streak there, but you got to be honest about some of those knockouts, right? It's not, nobody's on Volkov's level out of that crew. Now a guy in Cyril Gane who's kind of built like Volkov, technical guy, beats him around 3 TKO body kicks. I could see that happening to Volkov here as well, or at least in Volkov's favor. I mean, so I got Volkov at minus 220. Put 2 units on it to win, just under 1. I think it is a walk in the park. The consolation prize is I get to party with the Nelk boys and watch, their favorite guy on the edge of the cage chugging beer out of his shoe. That's fun. I'll have lost my money, but that's at least that's a small consolation prize at the end of the day. So, but I think it is going to be either a decision or a late stoppage for Volkov in this one. I see my guy Mushroom in the chat with a Volkov KO plus 100. Don't hate it. I just wonder if Volkov will play more of a technical fight here and just stay at range and not take any chances. What do you think about the durability of Tai Tuivasa in this one for that kind of a game plan? Like, do you think the body strikes will add up, or what do you think is going to happen?
Oh, man. I mean, yeah, I think Volkov could work the body, hurt him to the body. I think he could knock him out. I think Volkov, and especially with a guy like Tai Tuivasa, who's going to have to crash the pocket, he's going to have to take chances to even be able to get to Volkov to hurt him. Volkov's so good at putting those shots out there and really letting a guy run onto it. I just see Volkov. I saw you just somebody brought up the prop, Volkov by KO. Very good prop. I dig it. I actually do think there's a higher than likely chance Volkov does get this fight finished inside the distance, even though I feel like he's kind of been a decisionator as of late. There's been a couple of times I've been a bit disappointed, like he doesn't really step on the gas when he's in control of the fight, kind of cruises to the win. But I'm hoping that, just the action and the savagery of Tai Tuivasa essentially forces his hand either way. Volkov inside the distance and by KO is virtually the same price. Pay the difference to cover the outrageous Hail Mary that is Volkov getting on Tai Tuivasa's back and locking in an RNC. Okay, that's my tip. Take the ITD, don't take the KO. Pays the same, but if you're already locked in on the KO, I think you're probably going to be all right.
Does it remind you of Volkan Ozdemir last week on Guskov?
Man. Well, listen, I'll be honest. I think we haven't seen a situation like that since Alonzo Menefield fought. Who was that fraud guy?
Fabio Charant?
No, not Fabio Charant, not the water buffalo. That Russian dude with a fake record on Topology.
Oh, yeah. Askar Moskarov.
Yeah, okay. I think that last week's Vulcan situation was about as free money as that was. I mean, those dudes are so low level. I thought we were going to see an actual explosion of money on Volkan Ozdemir. Like people were going to find out leading up to the fight. They didn't. They really didn't. Man, that dude is
the opinion on Ozdemir was just so low, I guess, that it just didn't go that way.
I mean, don't get me wrong, the guy lost a lot of fights, but again, against who, right? I mean, we're talking about top 10 light heavyweights, not top 45 Polish light heavyweights. You know what I mean? So yeah, those are few and far between, and those are the ones that you actually look back on in regret that you just didn't lay more.
I agree. I gotta say, I can't sound like a tough guy. I picked Ozdemir to win. I played the under 1.5 in that fight, which was almost the same. It was like minus 125, minus 130. But yeah, I mean, I was a little scared to even just bet Ozdemir's flat out because I'm like, dude, this guy, it's 205 again. And this guy, Guskov, he did have fast hands, but we saw him knocked out by like a jab pretty much in one of his regional fights.
Right.
Against not the worst guy, but like competition was so bum level. It was like that Askar Moskarov, you're right. But what I meant in comparison to that was he didn't get the knockout on Guskov. He tried to finish him on the mat and got the RNC. So
absolutely, you're exactly right, dude. And how many people, so many people had Volkan Ozdemir by KO last week, and they had to be just absolutely sick watching him jump on that guy's back.
Yeah, I would have drank myself to death. My guy. 1-3 MMA saying, yeah, Volkov only been knocked out twice. Derek Lewis with that Hail Mary, and the other was Vitaly Minikov. Absolute beast 10 years ago. Yeah, Volkov's durability.
True that.
Unless he eats like a big gut punch, a big Samoan tied to Tuivasa gut punch, doubles over, and now he's not 6'7", he's like 5'7", and his chin is right there for the taking. something like that, then I could see, but I don't think it's all that likely, but hey, what are you going to do? Like I said, if I lose my Volkov moneyline bet, I'll just be watching Tuivasa have a heartwarming moment in front of his home city, drinking beer out of a shoe. Not the worst way to lose a bet, but I will be pretty salty about it. We can move on to the main event, middleweight championship on the line. Israel Adesanya defending against Sean Strickland. So it's not an Alex Pereira fight. It's not a Robert Whittaker rematch. We do have a fresh fighter here in Sean Strickland challenging for the belt. So that's nice, but did kind of want that Dricus Duplessis fight. Did you not, Bleed?
I'm right there with you, man. That's such an intriguing matchup for me. I think this Dricus Duplessis is such a tough guy to get a read on. He's so awkward, so strange. He does things that I feel like don't necessarily make sense in the situation, but you cannot deny the results. And I feel like with Adesanya, such a sharp striker, it's going to take someone, very unorthodox to have a lot of success against a guy that's just as sharp as Adesanya. And unorthodox, that's not really Sean Strickland. If anything, he's very orthodox. I'll let you kick it off, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, we got pretty wide money line. Oh, shout out to Nigel Lee in the house, man. Shouting out his guy Bleed on a live and a collab at that. Dude, I had to pull out the big guns for the pay-per-view this week. So I got my guy Bleed out of the woodwork off of his channel and onto my platform here. So again, thank you so much, Bleed. But we kicked this one off. Israel Adesanya, a massive minus 650 favorite. Sean Strickland, a plus 475 underdog here. Probably because this is likely going to play out on the feet at striking range. And that's proven to be somewhere where Adesanya is rarely beat. He's got very good defense there, good striking output, good cardio, speed, and he broke his streak. I think both guys broke their streak of decision results last time with round 2 TKOs for both of them. Abus Magomedov for Sean Strickland, Alex Pereira closing the chapter of that book, perhaps for Israel Adesanya, both in round 2, and it was both their first finish in a while. So, I mean, this fight, I could see this playing out in a long striking affair. The question that I think a lot of people have is, will Sean Strickland wrestle? But my response is, will it even matter if he does? I mean, not many people have had success doing that against Adesanya. It's not like he's like a guy with a 9-0 record as a kickboxer in MMA. Like, this guy has got a massively impressive resume now. I'm sure he's been working on his takedown defense in a lot of spots. I don't think he's a fish out of water on the ground, even if Sean Strickland did choose to wrestle. And when Strickland does choose to wrestle, it's usually later in the fight. It's against guys like Imavov or Uriah Hall. He'll sprinkle it in like in round 3 as he is comfortable in the fight. So I don't see it happening. I think he's going to march forward with that heavy pressure style, try to box up Adesanya and trap him. But Adesanya's going to move left, right, hit him with the jab out of either stance, a leg kick, escape, and reset back to center. And we see that for the majority of the fight. I could see this going the distance. I like the over 3.5 at near even money. I do have a small bet on that. Not going crazy on it because I played the overs last time in the Pereira fight, and they did cost me there. But most of these guys' fights go to the scorecards. Bleed, do you think Adesanya gets a knockout on Sean Strickland, or do you think Strickland comes through with the upset?
Oh, man. I got to go Adesanya here. I probably lean more towards a decision. Sean Strickland, this guy, for as, I'm not going to say pedantic, but for as one-dimensional as he fights. I mean, Sean Strickland, like you said, later on in some rounds, we'll see him mix in some wrestling, thank goodness. But this guy's just a Terminator. I mean, this guy, every fighter you put in front of him, the game plan is, I'm going to walk forward. I'm going to let shots roll off me. I'm not going to absorb damage. I'm going to eventually walk this guy down. I'm going to get my hands going. And I'm going to eventually overwhelm this guy with strikes, get him in a position where he's hurt or covering up, unleash until the referee gets in there and stops the fight, right? I mean, it seems like it shouldn't be that hard to come up with a game plan to stop Sean Strickland. In modern MMA, a guy that walks forward and boxes, it just doesn't seem that complicated. But he's so damn good at just coming forward with pressure and boxing guys up. I think that there's a chance he looks much better than anyone's really anticipating. I know it's a straightforward approach, and I know that it seems like Adesanya should be able to just stay on the outside, use the kicks, use the reach. And I expect him to. But I also see a world where, Sean Strickland does cut him off, does land some good shots here. But do I see Sean Strickland winning this fight? Man, I really don't. I mean, I think we're going to have to see Sean Strickland wrestle, grapple, maintain top position, land good ground and pound. Is Sean Strickland capable of that? Potentially, but I think Sean Strickland's going to go out there and be way, way more than happy to, like he says, do the man dance with Israel Adesanya. I mean, this is a guy we're talking about that's mentally ill. Sean Strickland knows the way you beat Israel Adesanya is putting him on the mat and beating him up, right? You don't go out there and strike with Israel Adesanya for 25 minutes. I plan on Sean Strickland going out there and striking with Israel Adesanya for 25 minutes. And I think Israel Adesanya comes out ahead. Do I think he's going to look minus 800? Perhaps. I'll put it like this, though. This is one of those times where the number minus 800, this just makes it easy for me to just let it blow by. This is a fight. I hate not having action on a main event. I really do. But at minus 800, I'm going to sit back. I'm going to watch a nice main event while I count blue face after blue face, the hundies, all my bets of cash previous in the night. And I'll just sit back and watch a nice 25-minute spar session between Israel Adesanya and Sean Strickland. And at the end of the fight, they say 49-46 Israel Adesanya, and you wonder where that sympathy round for Sean Strickland was ever found on those judges' scorecards.
Right.
That's how I see the fight.
It'll be one of those like Nate Diaz on Leon Edwards moments where they get like an ooh-ah moment at one point. And they say, you know what? That's the round. That's the one round.
We'll give it
49-46. Homewrecker in the house, man. When you got a chain worth $250,000, like my man Bleed is rocking right now, you don't have to brush your hair, my friend. But hey, I appreciate you, Nigel Lee, for the dono, man. Thank you for that, for the culture, and for having Bleed on. You see all the love you get in here, man. I knew this was a good idea, and we're totally on the same page with the main event for this one. I see a couple people in the chat. I know my guy MMA Jesus 420. Everybody go follow this guy. He does breakdowns as well. He's calling the and new. He's calling the Sean via sub at plus 2100.
Wow.
That would be fancy. That would be real fancy.
That'd be wild.
How's that going to happen? It's going to be one of those big ooh-ah moments where Sean Strickland marches forward, hits him with the three-piece and soda. Izzy's on wobbled legs, dives in for the takedown, panic wrestles, gets caught up in a Peruvian necktie, and that all happens in round 5 after the 4.5 round mark. So the unders don't cash. Sean Strickland and MMA Jesus go laughing to the bank and new. And clip that. That's going to happen. No, I think it's Izzy by decision. Got the overs in this fight, but yeah, it's almost like that Holloway fight versus the Korean Zombie last week, where it's like, man, how do I play this fight from a betting perspective? I just got to sit back and watch and let it pass by. So, man, we did it. All 12 fights bleed. We agreed on quite a few spots on this card, to be honest with you. We saw things pretty similarly. Read the value. I think the only one we might have disagreed on was Ulberg and Jung, I think, but either way, you think that underdog spot is the technical side value-wise, but ultimately you think Ulberg goes in there and stays the handsome kickboxer, gets a knockout. I don't blame you. You're on the same side as a lot of people that I respect. I'm a crazy man taking a little bit on Jung this week, but I'll have my best bets and props video out in the next day or two, just listing all of my bets. That'll be up. My man Bleed, it's been a pleasure to let the people know what you are rocking on the Patreon. That link is in the description. What you do on your YouTube channel. Just let the floor is yours, my friend. Thank you.
Well, hey, man, first things first. Thank you, Patrick, man. It was great. Had a great time coming on here, breaking down a full card. Like I said, it's been a while. Your boy's a bit rusty on the full card, but no, man, great time. Yeah, if you want to check me out, obviously, there's my YouTube channel. I don't YouTube anywhere near as much as I used to, man, and I apologize to everybody about that. My guys, Nigel Lee, even the Justin Villegas, so many. The vast majority. There's only a couple of names that I did not recognize, man, and big props to you guys. Absolutely love seeing you guys in here. But what I would like to say is follow me on X, formerly known as Twitter. Instagram, you can check me out. And it's as simple as this, man. If you want every bet that I'm placing on this card, Tuesday Night Contender Series, Bellator, PFL, bare knuckle, non-bare knuckle boxing, I got it all, baby. And listen, I post it. It's so simple. Even an idiot could understand it. Okay. I literally, some people ask me, they're like, Bleed, could you get a little, listen, I'm trying to make this inclusive for everybody. All right. I keep it so simple. It hurts. Log on and you can find out, baby. Thank you, Patrick, man. It's been a great time. I think you've got some phenomenal spots. Yeah, we agreed on a lot. I think you're going to make some money, man. And I'll be honest, that Jung, I think he's got a pretty good shot. I do. I think you might clean sweep it, my man. But best of luck to all the viewers. Appreciate everybody tuning in. And let's do it again sometime.
Absolutely. Would love to have you back on. Like I said, I've been a fan of your work for a long time. And as far as the breakdowns, the process, I think you said it perfectly. You're able to condense all this information into a pretty simple format. I'm a big proponent of if you know something well enough, you can explain it simply enough. And I think that's something that is not lost in your breakdown. So, and not to mention the most entertaining man in the game, I would say. So I secretly do, between me and you, I miss those full card breakdowns, but I'm sure people can get all that same information on the Patreon. So make sure you check it out. Support this man's work. But everybody in the chat, love you guys. Have a good time this weekend watching this Australian pay-per-view. I'll talk to you guys next time. Cheers.